next time we meet up, feel free to have the recording on right from the beginning.
I see. You too like to live dangerously.
I do. I do. I've been known to live life on the edge.
Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Belgian Jasper. If this is your first time in the channel, hit subscribe right now.
Grant, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. Coming to us live from the Twitch basement. I appreciate that. We're here obviously to celebrate the 5-year re-release of Apex, which is, I know, just crazy to think about it. Like, we saw the Demons of the Astro Waste reissue, now we see the re-release of Apex. Does that mean that Unleash the Archers is now like a legacy old people band that is going to look backwards?
Yeah, next comes the greatest hits album, and then the
best
going
of,
on a business tour, the best of. We're it's been over a decade since the band has been together, and 5 years since Apex is just wild. Like, where's the time going?
Apex definitely changed a lot for you guys. Is there one thing that directly stands out as like a crazy memory for you that Apex made possible?
The Apex made possible. It's hard to tell when it's just like, I wouldn't say it's like one single thing. It's just like a build-up. Like, Apex really opened the door for a lot of things. One, it was kind of like our maturity as songwriters coming into our own, and that's when we really kind of hit our stride, I believe. And two, it was the beginning of the Immortal Saga. You know, this story that so many of us have like fallen in love with, and it's become part of our life. And it was the beginning of that, and it's crazy to think it's been 5 years still. Like, I really know the age of Apex because it's the same age as my firstborn son, right? My son is 5 years old. He was born during the recording of Apex, actually.
And this is a selfish question, because I don't know if you know, I don't think you know. We're 2.5 weeks away from the due date of my firstborn son.
I do know, man. I do. That's so exciting. That's crazy. That's awesome.
So 5 years of experience of that. Forget about Apex for a while. What is the one advice that, as an experienced father to a father to be, what words of wisdom would you impart on me?
Dude, you know, I don't even know if there's anything I really could say to prepare you for it. Is that, you know, the thing you have to accept is that you are never going to be fully prepared, and you're never going to know all the answers because every single person is completely different, right? So what works for me might not work for you, and, you know, and there's so many different variables. Like, even between my 2 kids I have, they're so completely different. But, you know, for me, the biggest thing is just, you know, I don't even know, just being there, being present with them as much as possible. Because as we're realizing right now, 5 years goes by so quick. And, you know, it was a blessing that COVID happened, in a sense, because I was able to spend so much time at home with them. But, you know, it's really about just being patient with them, trying not to get risen up out of anger and emotion when something happens, and staying calm, and instead of like really like coming down on them and punishing them, coming down to their level and trying to realize how they feel rather than just punishing them. That usually helps dissolve any explosion that's currently underway, rather than just locking up, and unfortunately sometimes that is needed too, because there's no reasoning with a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, all your negotiation tactics go out the window as far as logic goes, but it is a beautiful journey, and I'm so happy for you, man.
COVID in a way was such a blessing for you to get spend so much time with your children, and building a new home as well for your family, which I know was a big project for you. To bring us back to Apex and just a career in general, how weird is it for you and everybody in the band that in a way, with a limited amount of actual showtime, the last 2 years probably were the best years in the career of the band, the most successful years, and you basically did that with computer screens in between you and your audience for almost all of it, right? There were obviously a couple of shows. Going through such positive years as well for a band and you personally, while the world and many in your audience are going through probably the worst years of their life. How do you deal with that? Like that must weird you out at times.
Yeah, it's a very good question, and I think we could even dig a little deeper here too, because this is not just like a only COVID thing, because this is happening all the time. There's people doing well, there's people not doing well, and it's like, okay, what do you focus on? Do you sit there and focus on everyone not doing well and feel bad for them and be this this advocate for trying to help them, or do you compare yourself to everyone doing better than you and you feel worse because of it? So it's like, it's this really tough thing to balance for anybody. And personally, I've realized I can't save everybody, and that there's always going to be people doing stuff better than me. So I think the ultimate lesson here is to not compare yourself to others. And it sounds so cliche and cheesy, but it's so true, because what you focus on is what you feel. So you can feel bad or you can feel good depending on what you focus on. So for us, these past few years was definitely the best years for the band. The 2 most successful albums we've had to date. So, and I would like to think that that music also helped raise people up as well, so we were all going through this tough time, and my hope is just that our music was able to help others as well, and much thanks to anybody who supported the albums and the music and the band throughout those times, which helped us get through it. Because man, it would have been so bleak, and it was bleak that whole time, not touring. And it's like, man, we're just like, how long is this gonna wait? It's like, and we've talked about this many times before about, do we wait to release Abyss? And so I'm glad everything happened the way it did. I hope that no one out there sunk too far down into a bad place that they couldn't get themselves out. And if they are, there's still hope. Guys, don't ever give up. Please, there's someone out there that loves you.
This is becoming very quickly a very deep and serious conversation, and people have no clue that before we hit record button, we were talking about naked yoga and jumping around like monkeys. So maybe
it's true. It's true.
It is true, which is true. But no, thanks for that. That's very, very, very true words. One of the with this re-release of the Apex album, for a lot of the fans, what is really fun are some of the bonus versions of drastically different versions of some classic songs where you guys embrace synthwave, some acoustic renderings. I was yesterday I saw again the acoustic version you guys did for the Outlander in 2011.
Hear him calling out, don't be a fool. Cast away this solitude.
Where you
Oh,
offered
wow.
some very high-pitched backing vocals. And I was going to ask you today if you missed singing and if you want to sing more, but you set the record straight by releasing your Barbie Girl cover 7 hours ago.
It's fantastic. You can dress my hair. I'm bursting everywhere. Imagination, life is your creation.
You
Is
don't
that
miss a
something
thing,
that you
do
would
ya?
like to do more of, whether it's in a funny way or in this? Because we have Male Clean singing on Abyss, but that was done by Andrew, right? So you usually come in for the growling parts. Is that something you would like to explore more, like build more of a clean singing muscle?
That is a very good question. And I'm definitely open to it. Different voices and singing voices, especially on the albums, is really dependent on the characters in the story if it's needed. So that would be a thing that's really up to Britt. I think I have a pretty good singing voice. So we'll see if we can. I'm definitely open to it if we want to mess around with it in the studio, and if it sounds good, we can go with it. Andy's got a great voice, right? So
Yeah.
It's not something I've honestly thought about a lot lately. I'm just really focused on writing new riffs and music, and kind of leave the singing for the professionals, so to speak.
Now you mentioned that it's a story. The last 2 albums, it's the Immortal Saga. First question: when Abyss was about to be released, there were talks about an additional EP that would continue the Immortal storyline. In the PR messaging around this new re-release, it kind of says like, "Hey, now you can get the full Immortal Saga." So, is that story? Is that now finished and we're going to move on to something else, or based on the open ending of the information in the Earbook for Abyss, should we continue? Should we expect the storyline to continue?
Good question.
If you're allowed to say that.
Yeah, I can say as much as the new album will definitely be a completely new story and a new universe, or I don't know, new universe, but new.
Right.
Yeah,
New world.
so new world, yeah. So I wouldn't say the Immortal Saga is like a closed book, though, right? We might come back to it in the future. I know we've talked about it many times. Britt wants to do a graphic novel,
Yeah.
more of like a prequel to it. So I wouldn't be surprised if we come back to revisit some of the characters and the storylines in the Immortal Saga. But yeah, totally stoked on a new world, new story, new direction. It's gonna be so much fun, man. Like it's exciting as a songwriter and a creator to just be working on something new, because when we introduced Apex and the Immortal Saga, it was like, opening up a whole new world. It's exciting to open up a whole new world of new characters to love and to hate.
Yeah.
Right. So, I'm excited to see people's response to it. And I'm still excited to see how it develops as well, because we're still in the middle of it. So,
Yeah. Now it's interesting, like how there's your excitement is clear, which is not always the case when it comes to bands that do a lot of concept albums with people that are not necessarily the main lyricist. And so I was wondering how important the story for you is. Because sometimes people find concept albums to be limiting, where it's like, oh, well, I can't really play this song in front of that song because the story doesn't make sense, and all these things. Is it for you? It is very much something that that is important to you. As long as, I guess, a broader interpretation of the themes and so on can stay relatable. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, for me, I don't know if I would want to do it any other way now. And
Okay.
even if a band doesn't do a concept album, I would suggest that you always start with an idea, some sort of concept. Doesn't
Yeah.
need to be a concept story, but having an overarching theme and story gives it so much direction. And it is maybe limited in that you just can't write anything and just throw it in, right? It all has to fit together, which adds another challenge. But man, it's what would be the fun if it was just easy, right? So, yeah, some songs might not make it. You write a song and it's like it just doesn't fit any song. We'll just save it for next one, and that happened with Apex. Abyss, the title track, most of it was kind of written during Apex, and we heard it. We're like, that's just doesn't fit the feel of the album. So we'll bank it, put it in the old bag of riffs. We'll save it for the next one. Yeah. And I think you have to have like no ego around that, in the sense that you write a song and you have to have like no attachment to it being on the album just because you wrote it. It's like. We come to writing an album in the sense that we want the best for the album, So if you got to wipe my song because there's a better song, all the power, because it's all about making the album the best it could be. The thing that I really, really love about Unleash the Archers is that I know that the final product is going to be phenomenal, because I'm not writing music for just me, for the fans. I'm writing it for my other band members. Like, I want to impress them.
Right.
If they're happy with it, then it's good, but so their opinion matters so much to me, and we all work on it all together. And between that, that whole process, between 10 tracks, riff by riff, we don't want to have any extra note in there. Not even a single note that is too much or too little. Every note is as important as any other note, and it helps tell the full story.
Yeah.
So, for us, just to come back to the process and all that and whether I like it or not, and every song has a direction because of that. So, and it helps with a writer block too, because you can be like, okay, you're just like filling in the pieces of the puzzle. You're like, okay, this song is written, this song isn't written. What kind of feel are we going for this song? Do I have any riffs that kind of match that feel that we can start to build off of? You're like, no, I don't. I'm going to move on to a different one, or whatever it might be. Or sometimes we just throw a song at the wall, and Britt's like, oh, that's totally this track. Like, she hears it and she just knows the story, and she's like, that's this track.
Yeah.
So Britt's the grand like conductor of track lists and how the story is going to flow. Andy's the grand like producer, how each song flows into each other musically, right? And just like the overall production hat. And yeah, it's we found like a very winning formula now.
When you play live, whether you're headlining or where you're playing on a festival on a shorter set, you have to make choices. You can't play every album front to back. That means that some critical elements of stories never get told anymore, at least live. Is there but because we're talking about the 5-year, re-release of Apex, from that album specifically, I know that you recently did with Earth and Ashes, a cover, I think, right? That you put on that you were playing on Twitch. That's the in Spotify terms the least popular song of that album, with still 1.2 million streams, which is phenomenal, but likely will not be played live unless you one time play the entire album front to back. If you had complete control, is there one forgotten song that you would love to bring back on a stage?
Probably that one, Earth and Ashes. Not to just take the easy answer here, but there's a reason why I like post things about it and things like that, you know, because it's a song that probably won't get played a lot.
Yeah.
Other than that, nothing really. You know, what we play is kind of like what we love, and but you know, there's gonna be a whole chunk of old songs that are kind of gonna get benched now with a new release.
Yeah.
So I'm sure if you ask me this question after we start touring the new album, I'll be like, oh man, we got to play that song. But you know, maybe there's some because I wasn't on the first two albums, I don't have as much emotional attachment to those.
Right.
I think there's still some really good songs, especially on the first album, Behold the Devastation, and we don't play any of those songs anymore. So I think it would be cool, but the style of that music is not really the same as ours. So to throw like one of those songs in the sets seems kind of weird these days.
Yeah. One of the nice things about the new, you know, deluxe edition is also the instrumental version of all the songs, and you're a band that is trying to stay as close as humanly possible with your fan community through lots of different ways, Discord, Twitch, and so on and so on. Your fans love to take those instrumentals and be creative with them. We've seen that in the past. Has there been one that really jumped out to you, that really impressed you?
With the instrumentals, there's some really good vocal covers that have come out. I forget their names. You know, some young lady did an awesome cover of Tonight We Ride, actually, which is not the instrumentals. Another one that has really impressed me is this young drummer. He's 11 years old, and he's been doing covers of ours. And his dad hangs out on Twitch all the time. And both Andy and I have played along with his covers. Dude, that guy really impresses me. 11-year-old ripping our songs note for note.
Maybe as a bit of a wrap-up question, Grant, do you remember the taste of Belgian whiskey?
I do, actually. I was out earlier today with my kids, and I bought a bear from Belgium.
Okay.
That has like the little Belgium flag on the sweater, and my young daughter Victoria was carrying around with her all day today. I probably, you know, subconsciously knowing that I was going to be meeting up with you. She honestly like never has this bear, but for some reason today she had it.
There you go. Good,
but
good.
Yeah, man, that I know the moment you're talking about. And that the man cave of a century was that's where we hung out in Belgium. That is a single person's basement.
Thank you for spending some time with me today. Thank you for the wise words in order to prepare all the fans for what's coming and prepare me for becoming a father. Hopefully, I mean, in 2 weeks from now, probably by the time this video goes live, my situation will be very different. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. As always, a good time talking to you. I'll let you go back to you know, naked YouTube videos and doing some fun stuff.
Thank you so much for having me.
Don't get banned. Thank you so much. Have
Appreciate
a good one,
you, man. Thank you.
Right.
Cheers.
You are awesome for watching this video. Click right here to see more content like it and subscribe to the channel.